Wednesday the 20th of September 2017 from 11:30 to 1 o'clock with Gorry. I believe that's how you pronounce his name. I am sorry if I am not saying it correctly. What we started off was the opportunities of working on EastEnd Tales 2 and what we could do with the scene. We also worked on the challenges. The opportunities were flexibility with text and narration of lines. So with the flexibility of that, there are no specific roles. So we could actually alternate lines if we wanted to. We could split up between whoever. Or you could actually just make characters out of those lines and portray them. It's not necessarily just EastEnd Tales 2, it's EastEnd Tales altogether, I suppose, with that one. Actually, with all of these, it's EastEnd Tales. I was wrong. So yes, non-verbal storytelling we could do. So physical theatre, like fully showing what we are trying to say, putting it across in a non-naturalistic way instead of just portraying the story or whatever, or anything like that. Heightened Brecht, so bringing in everything that Brecht has taught and has discovered and really putting the effort into it and bringing the energy to it and over-exaggerating what he did. One of those is over-exaggeration of characters, which I have later found out, which I will say in a later actor's vlog, is Justice. Justice is over-exaggerating the physicality and showing who the character is through your body movements and through your just through your physicality. Just if you're posh, up straight, over-exaggeration. I kind of also went into my voice. That's another thing. He just really likes stereotypes. That's one of the Brechtian techniques. Another opportunity is variety of emotion and tone. So if you go through each of the stories line by line and put in a specific emotion to it, you will be able to find out what your character is feeling or what you're supposed to be feeling at that line, whether you have a character or whether it's just narration. We've also found this out through Tim Major, who told us that all the best actors do this and go through their scripts line by line and but what he said is putting objectives to the line. So for example, when I did this later on, which I didn't do in the lesson, I did it at home on my own, so I can put this in this actor's blog. In EastEnd Tales 2, on one of my lines, it was my first line actually of the whole thing, I say "and healthy." If I said it like this, it would just seem very flat and not good at all, not interesting. I decided that because it says she's happy and healthy, I thought, because Jada says she's happy, I think that she's bragging a bit here that she is healthy. So I thought, I'm going to say "and healthy." So that actually lifted it immediately from "and healthy" to "and healthy." So that's a completely different tone and a different emotion. Another opportunity for EastEnd Tales as a whole is different interpretations. So you could have, well, I'd say a good example of this is my scene, Eastern Tale 6, where they kept the people in the scene as customers. So I did split it up into shopkeeper, brother, but the rest of the people who are narrating it as well were customers. Whereas we had the brother and the shopkeeper on stage the whole time, and there were 4 of us at the back on boxes. Well, it's not boxes, they're blocks. We were stood on the blocks and just narrating it to the audience, mainly keeping eye contact with the audience. That's another Brecht thing, breaking down the fourth wall. Brecht doesn't just break down the fourth wall, oh no. He tears it down with a bulldozer. Or uses dynamite. He wants the audience involved. He doesn't want them to sit back and let it wash over their heads. But he loves it. And he loves the audience being involved and thinking about what's happening in the scene. Especially with something like this, which is so many political statements. A tale of loneliness. What we should do to help the elderly. A tale of abuse. How people close their eyes off to what's happening in the streets around them. Eastern Tales 5. I really can't remember the name of that one. But I know Eastern Tales 6 is a tale of racism. And those 3 in particular are major issues in our society. And Brecht is one of the people was someone who brought that kind of thing to the theatre and wasn't scared to do it, especially in the time when he was a communist and he was in a fascist country. The Nazis rose to power and he just put on these plays, not caring that fascists were going to see it and see that he was saying that communism was better than fascism. He didn't care. He wanted to get his point across. And that's the point with Eastern Tales. That's the opportunity throughout the whole thing, which is not what I put on here, but the opportunity throughout the whole thing is to interpret it and really put it across, saying these are the problems in our society. It's so easy to fix them. Because, well, not necessarily the tale of abuse, but it's so easy to fix racism. When someone's being racist, you just shouldn't let it happen. Or if someone has been discriminated against for anything, you should just be nice. The next person who speaks to them should be nice and say, like, you're a human, I'm a human, it's fine. Like, I don't understand why, make you say, I don't understand why people are like that. It's awful, especially in today's society, when you think that we'd be past these trivial things, but we're not. And that's the point of this. The challenges, however, are... Sorry, I'm getting a little bit emotional. The challenges are relating to the text. So, for example, gender, age, different ethnic backgrounds, especially in Eastern Tale 6 is a different ethnic background. Because the main characters are Paki, and I really don't like using that word, but they're Pakistani. And the family, obviously, well, we as actors are not Pakistani, we cannot get that across. My character in that was also a lot older than I am now. Another challenge is choral movement, choral speaking. So it could be one person is just off by a second. It could throw the whole thing off, especially with speaking. If someone says something late and it just throws off the next line, or the next person who's saying the line, would make it look very unprofessional. So when it's comes down to choral speaking, it should be clear. It should be, as it says, choral. It should be in unison. It's something that everyone has to work on, especially in a big production, especially in college. Whatever production it is, it's something to work on when you get the text. Dividing lines, making sure everyone has a fair shot of saying something. One of the problems we ran into in the next lesson, which was with both groups, was dividing the lines up properly, and finding out that Chanel had a lot more lines than other people, and Julian wasn't in that day, so we had to make sure that he had something to say and not forget about him. It's something that you run into on something like this when there's no specific parts. So it's just a bit difficult to get a piece of text which is just in a poetical format, I suppose, and saying, this is what you're going to say, this is what I'm going to say, this is what so-and-so is going to say, and trying to make it fair, give everyone a fair shot of a good line, and not leave anyone in the dark. There were a couple of people who had 2 lines, like Dan and myself. Chanel had more, but we did decide in this lesson that she was going to be the East End, so she needed to defend herself or just put the story across from her point of view, which I think was a very good idea. Another challenge is keeping it interesting. If everyone says something in monotone and you're just sitting there because you can't really do much movement when you're in one specific spot that's been given to you, trying to keep it interesting and keeping the audience's attention, you need to find ways, not just in your voice but in movements, that you can do to keep their focus. You don't want them to just suddenly start zoning out. Another challenge is, which comes under choral comes under choral speaking, is neutral character voice when speaking in unison. So what Chris said was, it's like when you're in primary school and you'll say, when the teacher says, "Good morning, everyone," you say, "Good morning, Mr. So-and-so." Yeah, when we don't want that, we want to bring character, we want to bring raw emotion into it. Depending the raw emotion. We just want to bring emotion into the voice and into the lines that are unison, so we can show what it is and, well, show what emotion the audience are supposed to be feeling, whether they're supposed to be uncomfortable or happy or sad for them or excited, anything like that. If we put it on in our voices or in movements or both, the audience will start to feel that way. It depends on the reaction that we get, depends on what we put into it. And that's the problem with choral speaking. You need to put in a lot to get a good reaction out of it. And I have to end this. This is part 1. I need to make part 2.